Welcome to Nobody Told Me. I'm Jan Black.
And I'm Laura Owens.
What's the secret to success? What's the formula for achieving your biggest goals in life? Our guest on this episode, Hal Elrod, says the answer to those questions is simple.
Hal is the author of the international bestseller, The Miracle Morning, and his latest book is called The Miracle Equation, the 2 decisions that move your biggest goals from possible to probable to inevitable. Hal, thank you so much for joining us today.
It is, not only is it an honor to be here, but as a former radio DJ and now a podcaster, Jan and Laura, you have like the best voices I've ever heard.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Starting off with flattery.
Yeah, I don't know if you were born with that or I think you practiced, obviously, because you've done a lot of episodes. But anyway, so it's an honor to be here, and I was super impressed listening to you guys introduce the episode. So
wow, thank you so much. Wow.
Well, Hal, you've defied death twice and are a true miracle man. Can you talk to us a little bit about what happened?
Yeah. It's, usually the 2 experiences I've had, it's both of them are things that you think, man, that hopefully that never happens to me. It just happens to, other people, and I feel for them on the news, and then I change the channel and go back to my life. And not one, but 2 different experiences. The first was I was 20 years old. I had given a speech at a company conference. I was one of the top salespeople for my company, and I was always giving speeches at pretty much every, whether it was a regional or national meeting. And I gave a speech at this event. And driving home that night, my car was hit head-on by a drunk driver at 80 miles an hour.
Oh my God!
I spun off of the drunk driver, and the worst was actually yet to come. The car behind me, I spun around right in front of them, and they crashed directly into my driver's side door at 70 miles an hour.
Oh my God.
And what you might imagine would happen in that situation is what happened. I mean, their car crushed my door into my body and crushed my body, and I broke 11 bones instantaneously. My leg broke, the femur broke in half, my pelvis broke in 3 places, my arm behind my bicep broke in half, I shattered my elbow, severed the radial nerve in my forearm, my eye socket was crushed so bad it's rebuilt with 3 titanium plates. My ear was almost completely severed, and then the ceiling buckled and it sliced a big V in the top of my head. And unable to withstand the pain, I'm very grateful to say I was immediately in a coma. And it took the rescue crew almost an hour to use the jaws of life and to pull me out of the car. And I was stuck in the car just bleeding the entire time. And by the time they finally pulled me out of the car, I bled to death. And my heart stopped beating, I stopped breathing, and I was clinically dead on the side of the freeway. And they rushed me onto a medevac helicopter while performing CPR. And 6 minutes from the time that I flatlined, thankfully they didn't give up after 5. They kept working on me, and they brought me back to life. And I was rushed to the hospital, spent 6 days in a coma, flatlined twice more, and came out of the coma 6 days later to face the news from doctors that I would never walk again. And I had permanent brain damage as well. Like my short-term memory, I literally, Laura and Jan, we could have been friends for life. You could have come to visit me in the hospital for a few hours, sat by my bed in my hospital bed. If you went to lunch and came back, I would have forgotten that we spent the morning together. Like my memory was really bad. Wow. My wife will tell you it's not that much better now, but and but I was faced with this news that I would never walk again, and I essentially, and we can get into all the weeds on this and the lessons from this, but as far as the story goes, I decided that I would accept the worst case scenario. So it had no power over my emotions. Like I decided I'm at peace. If I never walk again, I will be the happiest. I made a decision. I'll be the happiest person that you could possibly be and the most grateful person you could possibly be in a wheelchair the rest of my life. But it won't. The decision was my circumstances will not determine my quality of life. They will not determine my emotional state. And the doctors thought I was in denial because I was so happy about everything. I was just positive and happy all the time. And they called my parents in. They said, "We're concerned with Hal. We think he's in denial. Maybe he's delusional. We're not sure. Find out how he's really feeling." And my dad approached me and I said, "Dad, I can't change that I was in a car accident. I can't change that my body's broken. I can't change that I may never walk again." So I've accepted that and I'm at peace with it. I said, however, that's only one possibility. I believe there's a second possibility, and no one really knows if it's going to happen. But the second possibility is I will walk again. I might walk again. And I don't know if it's possible, but neither do the doctors. No one really knows.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, so I am choosing to accept the worst case scenario and set it aside and not worry about it, not stress about it. It's there and I've accepted it. And it's not even that bad because I'll be happy no matter what. But all my energy is going into what I want. And that's walking again. I'm visualizing walking again every day. I'm imagining it. I'm praying about it. I'm thinking about it. I'm maintaining unwavering faith that it's possible. And I'm going to therapy. I'll go to therapy. I'm going to do everything I can. And the doctors, I don't think they believed, that they thought, man, Hal's really delusional. He's really gone off the deep end. And, but it was very sincere. And, the proof is in the pudding, if you will. A week after this conversation with my dad, and 3 weeks from the night I was found dead and broke all these bones, the doctors came in with routine X-rays, and they said to me and my parents, they said, "Hey, we've got some really great news. We don't know how to explain this, but Hal, your body is healing so fast that you're actually ready to take your first step today in therapy."
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, and even me being optimistic, I'm like, maybe like 6 to 12 months, of healing and positive, focus. But I had never in a million years did I think that 3 weeks after the crash, I would take my first step. And I took my first step that day. And 4 weeks later, I left the hospital. And if we want to dive into that, we can. But I'll just real quick share with you the second near-death experience. So that was a real death experience. I actually died. But the second, 2 years ago, and I was 20 when that happened. I'm now 39. I was 37 2 years ago when I was on the verge of death, and we didn't know what was wrong. Doctors initially couldn't figure it out, but my lung kept collapsing, and I couldn't breathe. They kept having to drain my lung, fluid from my lung, and it was either an 11-day period. They drained 16 pounds of fluid from my lung. Basically, every day and a half, 2 days, I'd have to go to the ER. They'd have to stick a giant needle in my back and drain my lung, and then it would just fill back up in the next day, and I'd have to go back in over and over and over. And they kept running tests to figure this out, and it ended up being that I was diagnosed with a very rare aggressive form of cancer called acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And the scariest part is that particular cancer in adults has a 10 to 30% survival rate. And I always say that if you're a pessimist, right, if you're a glass is half empty person, that is the doctor saying you have a 70% to 90% chance that you are going to die, that you're going to leave your two young kids, who at the time were 7 and 4, my daughter Sophie, my son Halston, that you have a 70, 90% chance that you're going to leave them without a father and leave my wife Ursula, without a husband. And on the day I was diagnosed, and this really leads into, what we're kind of going to talk about today. But the day I was diagnosed, I called my wife. The hard part was she was out of town with the kids. I was by myself, and I called her with the hardest phone call I ever had to make in my life. And, she started just bawling, and it made me start bawling, even though I was at peace with it. Like same with the accident. I was at peace with it, but it's like, because I couldn't change it. So I might as well make the best of it. And I knew for her, it was much harder to hear, of course. And, I said, "Sweetheart," once we both stopped crying, I said, I know, I don't think she had stopped, but I said, I know this is the worst thing probably you can imagine. I know it's hard, but I said, there's two things, sweetheart. Number one, I've been through something like this before, different, but similar. Mm-hmm. And I made the decision that I would be the happiest and the most grateful I'd ever been while I endured my recovery from my car accident. And I said, I promise you, I will be okay. I will be the happiest and most grateful that I've ever been while I go through what I'm imagining will probably be the most difficult time in our lives. I said, and the second thing, and I said, I don't know if you remember this. I'm sure I've mentioned it to you before, but I've been living for 17 years by this thing that I called the miracle equation that I created when I was 21 to break a sales record in my company and do what felt like a miracle, which is why I called it the miracle equation. And I said, I've taught it to dozens of people, my coaching clients over the years. And I said, it works with, a very high success rate. I said, so even though the doctors are saying I have a 10 to 30% statistical chance of surviving this, I believe this formula, this equation these decisions will ensure that I have a 100% chance of being in that 10 to 30% that make it. And I don't expect you to believe me right now. I know you're afraid, but I have unwavering faith that I will beat this cancer and I will be alive with you and the kids for as long as, you and I want to be alive. And I'm very grateful to say that I applied the miracle equation, which I've done to everything from, selling millions of books to surviving my car accident and all these things. And I applied it to the cancer journey. And the doctors were similar to the previous doctors in my car accident. They were dumbfounded at how well I handled my treatments, which is one of the most horrific, intensive chemotherapy treatments in existence. A lot of people, and every chemotherapy regimen is different. I don't even know how many. But for example, I have an aunt that is going through breast cancer, and she would go in for chemo, for like an hour a week. Mm-hmm. And I had over 100 hours of chemo consecutively for 4 or 5 day periods, alternating 4 days and then 5 days, every 3 weeks. I had 100 hours of chemo nonstop for every 3 weeks. And the goal is to kill the cancer because it's so fast acting, it's so aggressive. Kill the cancer before killing the patient. And I got very close to dying on multiple occasions, but I'm grateful to say that I am now in remission, cancer-free for the last year and furthering my mission to elevate the consciousness of humanity. And that brings us to where we are today.
We're thrilled to have you as part of our Nobody Told Me family, and we want to tell you about one of our sponsors, Smart and Sexy.
Smart and Sexy is the place to go when you've made your plans for spring break and now you need to figure out what to wear.
The people at Smart and Sexy know that not everyone has the same wants and needs when it comes to swimwear, but no matter what your shape or size is, you want your swimsuit to accentuate your assets.
And that's why Smart and Sexy designs fashionable swim pieces that highlight what you love most about your body. Bra-size swim tops to lift in shape, minimum to full coverage bikini bottoms, and flattering one-piece suits that look good on every body type.
The best part, you can get the looks you want without going broke. Smart and Sexy swimwear is all under $28 and comes in over 50 sizes. Even Triple D bikini tops and tankinis are only $20 to $28.
But you can do even better than that. Right now, Smart and Sexy is offering Nobody Told Me listeners 30% off their first order. Just go to smartandsexy.com to find your new favorite swimsuit and get 30% off your first purchase with promo code Nobody Told Me.
That's smartandsexy.com, promo code Nobody Told Me for 30% off today. So we're talking about your process, the miracle equation. So we want to know, obviously, all about that. But first of all, how do you define a miracle?
Well, yeah, it's an important question because I think it's such a loaded word, and there's so many different meanings and interpretations of it, right? And I think that it has miracles, and for some people, maybe a lot of people, they kind of have a bad rap. There's an eye roll, like a miracle. Come on. Like I'm about, I'm not going to pray and wait for a miracle. Like, because I think miracles are thought of as mostly as these passive random acts that the pray and wait strategy, like hoping for a miracle and praying for a miracle, like hope things work out. Or they're thought as very random and unpredictable and not very reliable. And so the way that I define a miracle, for me, I'm about results. I don't want to just, I want to see results in our life. I don't want to put a vision board on a wall and hope that those miracles on that board come to pass, right? So here's my definition of a miracle. And a miracle is any meaningful outcome that is beyond what you believe is probable for you. So I'll say that again. So any meaningful outcome, and it can be in any area of life, right? Any meaningful outcome that is beyond the realm of what you believe is probable for you. And notice that I did not say possible. Because possible, if you are an optimist, if you engage in personal development, if you're part of the Optimist Club, the Optimist Credo is anything is possible. Mm-hmm. But possible is not enough to get us out of bed in the morning. Fueled with the motivation and the drive to make our biggest dreams come true. Because anything's possible, everything's possible. Human nature is to pursue certainty. We don't go after goals that are possible. We only go after goals that are probable. Right? If you're listening, when was the last time that you looked at a huge, meaningful, goal that would change your life that you go, you know what? The odds of this happening are slim to none. It's very unlikely. So I'm going to commit everything I have to make it happen. I'm going to give it everything, right? Mm-hmm. Even though I don't think it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like that defies our human nature. But if you look at the world's most prolific achievers and innovators and creators and the most successful individuals on the planet in any walk of life, that's how they operate. They look at the possible, and then through these two decisions that we're about to talk about, they move these things that are just possible, which is really nothing, right? There's nothing. Possible means nothing. They move them to probable. And then through these two decisions, by maintaining these until the outcome becomes inevitable. And so that is what is required for us to create the most extraordinary life, as we define extraordinary, that we really want and that we really deserve.
So how are people only two decisions away from happiness?
So here's when happiness is that is an outcome. So we could say that's an outcome, but I wouldn't say that these are specifically to be happy. These are the subtitle of the book, which you guys read, I think that is the best, that's the definition, right? Is the two good decisions that move your biggest goals from possible to probable to inevitable. So if your goal is to be happy, then yes, these are the two decisions. So let's explain what these are. So first and foremost, I'll give a quick disclaimer, which is the two decisions are deceptively simple in their explanation, but extremely rare in their execution.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Meaning, if I were to just tell you what these are, and then we were to go awesome and hang up, you'd be like, that doesn't help me at all. Like, I understand these two concepts. They're not rocket science. Mm-hmm. They're not fancy, right? Like, but that's the point. That's actually one of our biggest mistakes is we are trained. The media has trained us to get, and this isn't like a rant, but we've been conditioned to want what is new, right? Like, I mean, we want the new iPhone. We want the new model of the car. We want the new strategy, the new trick, the new book, the new this, the new that. But to change our lives, we don't need necessarily more information. We need methods for implementation. And there's a big difference, right? I think that's why most books don't change people's lives, because most books are a lot of information, and you read it, and while you're reading it, you go, there's all these aha moments. Oh my gosh, that's brilliant. I never thought of that before. Oh wow, that could change my life. But the author doesn't break down and simplify and hold your hand through methods for implementing the knowledge that they're giving you, the strategy they're giving you. And I didn't know this. I mean, I kind of knew it when I was writing The Miracle Morning, my last book, right? And that book sold 1.7 million copies, mostly word of mouth. Like, when I was in the hospital fighting cancer, I didn't do a single interview that year, not one. The year before, I did over 50. And we sold the same exact amount within 1,000 copies of the book, 130,000 copies the year I had cancer, 131,000 the year before. And I'm not, the reason I'm saying that is for context, that was all from people implementing the Miracle Morning in their life and then telling their friends about it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, because it was changing their life. And the reason I've reverse engineered and kind of analyzed, like, why did that book go so viral? And it's because I gave people methods for implementation. Like, that was what the book was about, was not just these big picture ideas and concepts. It was, here's how you beat your alarm clock. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. Then do this. Like, literally, you could give the book to a third grader, right, to your child, and say, hey, I'll give you $100 if next week you can do the Miracle Morning for a month, right, starting next week. And they could do it easy, right? It's so simple. And so that's what this book, The Miracle Equation, right, is these two decisions. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to like hold you off, but I'm going to give them to you in a second. But I really, it's important to understand, because otherwise I think you could hear these and tune out and go, well, that's too simple. That's too easy. Like, come on, right? I need something more complicated that I've never heard before, right?
Right.
So here you go. The first decision is unwavering faith, and specifically, to develop unwavering faith. The second decision is to maintain extraordinary effort. And I'll break these down for everybody. But I would challenge anyone, right, to go find someone and I've racked my brain trying to find, like, is there a person that's achieved amazing success in their life, however they define it, right? Fulfillment, like real success with meaning and fulfillment and purpose, not just a bunch of money. And money, this applies to people that have built fortunes as well. But find me one that didn't have to establish the faith that they could do something they've never done before. That's the first part of unwavering faith.
Mm-hmm.
But every human being is born with nothing, right? They're born as a baby with no knowledge, no skills, no money, unless
no
you're
cynicism.
Yeah, exactly, right? None of it, Also, no confidence, or maybe we're born with unlimited confidence and it goes away. I don't know. But
very quickly.
We're not born. Here's the point. We're not born with the attributes that we need to achieve the things we want. So by default, if you become a millionaire, you had to establish the faith that you could do thing after thing after thing after challenge after accomplishment after project after goal after mission that you've never done before, and you have no evidence that you can do it. Mm-hmm. Not in your own life, at least, right? When you check that rearview mirror in our subconscious that we all have, and you check the past, you go, "What am I capable of?" You go, "Well, crap, up to this point, nothing." Right?
Yeah.
So that when I say faith, I'm not talking about faith in a higher power or faith outside of yourself, and not to discount either of those. I have faith in both of those, but I'm talking about faith in yourself, faith in your limitless potential, in your unlimited abilities, in your ability to make a commitment to do whatever it takes to achieve a goal. That's the faith I'm talking about. Practical, tangible, reliable faith, because it's not based on anything that is out of your control. It's based on everything that is 100%, or at least very close to it, in your control.
So how do we develop that unwavering faith?
It is much easier than you might think. Again, this is what I've realized, is that if you want to help people change their lives, you have to make it easy, right? You can't make it complicated. You can't. When I wrote The Miracle Morning, my friends were like, "You should hire a ghostwriter, Hal. You're not a professional writer." And I thought about it, and I thought, you know what? My goal isn't to impress people with how good the writing is. My goal is to get them to change their life, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to unwavering faith, the way that you establish it and maintain it is simply by articulating it in writing, either on a piece of paper that you in your journal that you read every day, in your phone that you have on your screensaver that you see every day. I call this the miracle mantra and the miracle equation. I developed this, as I mentioned, when I was 21 years old. It was a year and 2 months, I think, after my car accident. I was trying to break a company sales record and do something that had never been done before. And then I found out, I was already kind of nervous to, as I was a human being, right? We have self-doubt, we have fear, I had all of that. And then the day before the sales contest started, it was supposed to be a 14-day sales contest. I was trying to sell $20,000 of kitchen knives. I sold Cutco cutlery, right? And our manager at the meeting, the team meeting, he said, "Hey, everybody, just so you know, I know, the push period, that's the name of the sales contest, is coming up." And he said, now, I don't know if you heard, but the conference had to get moved up 4 days sooner. So you don't have the full 10 days or the full 14 days. You only have 10 days. So you might want to adjust your goals accordingly. And I had spent the last few weeks, mentally trying to, get myself to commit and believe I could do this thing that had never been done before. And I raised my hand, my heart kind of sank into my stomach. I raised my hand. I go, "Frank," I said, "Please, I did not know this. Please tell me that this doesn't count for records and stuff, because we don't get the full time period, right? This can't count." And he said, No, Hal, I'm sorry, but unfortunately this counts just like any other push period. And I'm going, no. He just took away 30% of my time, right? It was already nearly impossible in the allotted 14 days. 10 days was a miracle, right? It would be a miracle. And so I went home and that night I'm in my head, I'm going, okay, should I give up on the goal? Should I lower it? Should I just sit this one out and just, go for the next one, whatever? And then I remembered one of the most important lessons I've ever learned in my life. I'd only learned it a few months prior, so it wasn't embedded in me yet. And for anybody listening, I believe this is one of the most valuable lessons that you can learn. And it's my mentor, Dan Cassetta, taught me this, and he learned this from his mentor, Jim Rohn, the great Jim Rohn. And Dan taught me that, and this is in my words, but that the purpose of a goal is not to hit the goal. but that's what we think it is. We mistakenly think very black and white in terms of our goals, that it's either this succeed or fail mentality. If you hit the goal, you succeed. If you don't hit the goal, you fail. And most of us don't like failing, so we never even get out the gate to really go after our biggest goals and dreams, because there's a possibility of failure. And for some of us, maybe we think it's a likelihood, a probability of failure. Mm-hmm. And so that keeps us playing small and living much smaller than we're capable of and we really want to be. And so Dan taught me that the real purpose of a goal is not to hit the goal. The real purpose of a goal is to give it everything you have until the last possible moment, regardless of your results and if you hit the goal or not, because that way of approaching every goal develops you, and you become the person that you need to be. You develop the qualities and the characteristics of someone who can achieve any goal they set. And each goal, whether you hit it or not, if you pursue it with essentially unwavering faith and extraordinary effort, then whether or not you hit any individual goal, it pales in importance to who you become every time you pursue a goal with that level of commitment. And so I took that and went, so if I commit to give it everything I have to sell $20,000 in these 10 days, even though that I've never done that, it feels impossible. But even if I don't hit the goal, I will become there's a better version of me waiting on the other side of these 10 days that I don't even know that guy. I've never been that committed before. So it doesn't matter if I hit the goal. So I decided that's how I was going to approach it. And then came the two decisions. And I'm sorry, I'm long-winded in the way I answer questions, but I warned you guys before we started. But I always joke with podcasters. I go, the good thing is you're kind of getting like a night off. Like it's really easy. Ask me like three questions and I'll fill all the time. So anyway, so there's pros and cons. But anyway, so I kind of reverse engineered it, and I went, okay, like since this feels like a miracle, it feels almost impossible. What would I have to do between now and 10 days from now for this to happen? And I went, okay, well, then I reversed it. I went, okay, well, what would stop me from making it happen? Let me do that. That's how I'll start to figure this out. And I said, well, the first thing that'll stop me, it's all mental, right? It's self-doubt and fear. Mm-hmm. Like right now, I almost wasn't going to even try this because self-doubt and fear is already stopping me. And I had been in sales for, a couple of years at that point. So I knew that more than likely I'm going to have bad days. I could even have a bad first week and I won't be on track for the goal. And my human nature will cause me to feel emotions that will prevent me from wanting to even keep going or trying if I feel like it's not going to happen. And so I thought the first thing I have to do is I've got to maintain an unwavering, and I don't know if I called it faith or belief at that point. I don't remember, but I have to continuously remind myself, I am committed to giving it everything I have until the last possible moment, no matter what. There is no other option. And by the way, that is the answer of how you maintain unwavering faith.
There is no other option.
You put in writing, I am committed to giving it everything I have to achieve blank outcome, whatever your mission is, until the last possible moment, no matter what. There is no other option. And so here's what happens. Here's how fear and self-doubt stops us. When we encounter an obstacle, a challenge, things don't start playing out the way we expected, seeds of fear and self-doubt are planted in our mind, mm-hmm. and in our emotions. And what happens is we end up going, those seeds, we focus on them, and what you focus on expands. In this case, the seeds of fear and self-doubt, when you focus on them, you're essentially watering them, and they start to grow. They start to expand. And you go, man, this isn't going the way I thought. Gosh, what if things don't get better? What if tomorrow's even worse? What if, right? And you go down this rabbit hole, and you water that seed, and all of a sudden it expands, and it takes up your entire consciousness. And now you can't think about what you want. You can't, right? You're overwhelmed with fear and self-doubt. So I just simply didn't go down that rabbit hole. That's how simple it was. I did this with cancer. Every time I feared dying and leaving my children and my wife behind, I have the same miracle mantra. I am committed to giving it everything I have to beat cancer and live to be 100+ years old with my family, no matter what. There is no other option. Now, let me pause. Did that mean that was a guarantee? Absolutely not. The greatest athletes in the world have no guarantee they're going to make every shot I take. But I've heard interviews with the Michael Jordans and the Kobe Bryants. They believe they're going to make every shot. They have unwavering faith. When the ball hits their hands, the voice in their head is the voice of unwavering faith. I got this. If they miss it, most players, the doubt grows, the self-doubt grows, the fear grows. What if I'm having an off night? What if I miss again? But the miracle mavens, as I call it, that's in the book, that's the term I use for people that understand this process, these two decisions. The greatest athletes in the world, when the ball hits their hands, they believe they make it. If they miss, their faith doesn't waver. In fact, you see the best players, the average players in the NBA, who are even the best, they're great players. But if they miss 2 shots in a row, the third time the ball hits their hands, they pass it back because the self-doubt's taken over. But the greatest players in the world, they could miss 3 shots in a row. They still call for the ball. 4 shots in a row, 12 shots in a row. You see the best players in the world have the worst 3 quarters they've ever had, but they keep shooting because they have unwavering faith that they'll make the next shot that they take, even if they miss the last 17. And while there's no guarantee, they make more shots than the other 99% of the players on the court because they approach every shot they take, and a shot's a metaphorical, a metaphor for any goal we approach.
Sure.
They approach it with unwavering faith, and it's as simple as the voice in their head. And so at the end of the Miracle Equation book, just like the Miracle Morning book, there's a Miracle Equation 30-day challenge. And the point of that is for you to integrate these 2 decisions. I know we're going to wrap up with the second one today, but for you to establish and reinforce unwavering faith every single day for 30 days. So at the end of the 30 days, it's ingrained in you, and you don't have to think about it. You'll start saying it without even realizing it. It's become who you are. And that's what this is about. That's what the Miracle Equation is about. This isn't a one-time all right, I'm going to apply this to making $1 million. No, these 2 decisions become the lens and the filter through which every experience, every opportunity, and every challenge that comes your way, they're filtered through these 2 lenses, and you're able to take them on in a way that 99% of our society doesn't understand or doesn't know, or they don't realize that, right? They just abide by human nature, whereas the people that overcome cancer, the people that achieve extraordinary goals, right, they're doing it through the powers of unwavering faith. And the second decision, which whenever I stop talking, we can get into.
Well, go on and tell us more about that, the extraordinary effort.
Okay. So once again, if you just heard that, you'd go, yeah, so I'm supposed to work hard. Got it, Hal. Thanks for the profound insight, right? So no, it's different. Well, first of all, yes, you have to work hard, right? I don't know very many people that didn't become the best at what they do and achieve their goals and dreams without, really working hard. And we're going to dive into that word hard for a second, or what I call extraordinary effort, hard work, extraordinary effort, right? Extraordinary effort. But what makes that ordinary so you don't feel overwhelmed by it? Because most people, even hearing, okay, so success requires extraordinary effort. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of work. I'm just going to turn Netflix back on and you guys, right? That's what we do. We choose the path. And why do we do that? In the same way that human nature is to see ourselves based on our past and to have fear and doubt show up in our brain to try to keep us safe, even though we're not having to run from, lions and bears anymore. We're not cavemen, right? But we still have that primitive brain still tries to keep us safe from those things. So we live by fear and self-doubt, often very quietly underlying in our subconscious. In the same way, human nature is to take the path of least resistance, because think about it. You go back to our caveman days. They weren't trying to build companies. They weren't trying to achieve extraordinary results. They weren't trying to become millionaires. They were built. Humans are built for survival. They were trying to survive, get food, have shelter, have fire, go to bed, and do it again, right? So you think about that. That's human nature, is to stay safe and comfortable. And there's nothing wrong with that. I would never judge someone to say, Hal, I don't want to become, successful or this or that. I think we all, we want meaning, fulfillment. I think that you can't really argue with that. We want to be great parents. We want to be great friends. We want to be great human beings. But if someone's like, Hal, but beyond that, I don't need to be financially free. That's fine. Being comfortable, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a judgment. But I think for most human beings, we do have an innate desire, and maybe we're conditioned from society, I don't know, for this desire. but I think we have an innate desire to fulfill our potential and to achieve a life that is everything that we would want and dream of, right? And that to me that's what this is about. So human nature is to put forth ordinary, just as little effort as possible to not get in trouble or encounter danger. But if you want to achieve extraordinary results, it requires extraordinary effort. Now, so in the miracle equation in the book, the way that I break this down is that, again, how do we make it ordinary? How do we make extraordinary feel ordinary? The way that we do that is by first and foremost defining extraordinary effort. What does that mean? At first glance or first hearing it, I think most people would think, man, working 80 hours a week and, hustling and grinding and all these things. That's not it at all. I guess that is a form of extraordinary effort, but I'm a dad. My kids are number one. I'm not going to work 80 hours a week. I'm going to work, 40 at the most, right? And so for me, extraordinary effort, if I defined it, it would be defined in one word, and that is consistency. If you think about how most of us approach our goals or dreams, so most people never get out the gate because of fear and self-doubt and just wanting you to stay safe and comfortable. For those of us that do get out the gate and we because we went to a Tony Robbins event or whatever, we're like, all right, I can do anything. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to be rich, whatever. So they call that uninformed optimism, right? It's where you hear this motivational rah-rah, you can do it. And then you you head out on your path because you've been told you can do anything. And then as soon as you encounter an obstacle or it's a lot more difficult than you anticipated, then the faith goes out the window and you go, I give it a shot, right? I mean, we literally give up so quickly. That's why I say extraordinary effort is about consistency. It's doing something. You don't have to work 80 hours a week. If you just worked, 30 minutes a day or 60 minutes a day outside of your current realm of what you have to do to pay the bills, if you just added 30 minutes a day or 60 minutes a day to do one thing that moved you in the direction of your single most important goal or dream in your life that would change your life significantly, right? So let's say it was to become a millionaire, and that would give you freedom to quit your job and do, start a business that you loved and spend more time with your family and whatever. So let's say your mission is in the book, I call it your mission. And we could talk about that now. There's not enough time. But the point is setting goals is, I told you guys to take the night off, self-manage. So setting goals is an activity that most people do every year, right? Or not most people, but those of us that do it, it's a fun activity. And many of us, we do it for the activity because it makes us feel good while we're doing it, imagining these great things happening. Uh-huh. But a lot of us know that we're not going to make them happen anyway. We're like, if we set them, we're like, next year I'll set new ones. I won't hit these. I'll just set new ones. And we do that year after year after year after year after year. So I talk about setting goals as a fun activity. But in this book, I talk about look at all your goals and ask yourself, of all these goals, which of these would help me become a miracle maven? In other words, if we revisit the real purpose of a goal, to become the type of person that can achieve anything, any goals in your life, which of the goals on your list is the most meaningful, the most significant, will change your life the most, and most importantly, will change you the most? Will challenge you to become a better version of yourself that can accomplish way more than the version that we are now, right? So when it comes to extraordinary effort, it's taking your mission. What's the most important goal that you're and the reason I call it mission, by the way, is because the word mission carries different weight. Humanitarian organizations carry out missions. Military, right? The military carries out missions. It's not, I hope I make it. It's, I hope I don't die. No, it's a mission. Yeah. It's, guys, we're going to happen. In. This is what we're doing. It's going to happen. There is no other option. Right?
Right.
And so that's the way now we're looking at, this is how you approach your goals. So you get clear on what is your mission, what's the single most important goal that have the biggest impact on your life and who you are as a person. Then you apply the miracle equation to that. Unwavering faith, you filter that mission through the statement that I shared earlier, right? That miracle mantra. And so that using language, reinforcing your commitment to do whatever it takes, no matter what, there's no other option to achieve that goal. And then extraordinary effort is where you get tactical and you go, okay, what's the process that will guarantee I achieve that goal? In other words, every goal, every outcome we're trying to accomplish, every result is preceded by a process. And the process, when done repeatedly over an extended period of time, essentially ensures the result. For example, if you want to lose weight, Well, that's usually burning more calories than you're taking in. That's your process, right?
Right.
Right.
Right. So if you simply commit to that process and you do it every day over an extended period of time, unless you have a genetic, like a physical thing where you can't lose weight for some reason, right? Like a thyroid issue or whatever. Like if you burn more calories than you take in and you burn fat, you can't fail. So that is your process. So in the book, right, and whether you read the book or not, you've got to get clear, what is the process? And a process should be as simple as possible, like a single recurring activity you can do every day. If you want to write a book, commit to a word count every day that you're going to sit down and write. And inevitably, you'll have a book. May or may not be a good book, but you can't fail if you write a word count every day, right? You eventually write 500 words a day for 100 days. Now you have 5,000 word days. So that's how it works. So you want to define that process, and then you remove your emotional attachment to the process, because there's no point, like I talked about with my car accident. You don't need to be emotionally attached to results that are now in the past. Once they've happened, they've happened.
Uh-huh.
You need to remove your emotional attachment, commit to the process over an extended period of time, and consistency is it. If you do it until you achieve the goal, you can't fail. Now, it might take longer than you thought. Most things do. I wanted to sell 1 million copies of Miracle Morning the first year it came out. I didn't even sell 10,000 copies the first year. It took me 6 years of applying the miracle equation because I was committed to maintaining unwavering faith and putting forth extraordinary effort until I reached 1 million people and changed 1 million lives. And I thought my goal was a year, and it took me 6. But when you finally get to the point in your life, and this is the last thing I'll say unless you ask me another question, but when you finally get to the point in your life that you've been working for so hard for so long, and if right now you're in the middle of it and it feels hard and it feels like nothing's happening and you're doubting yourself, when you finally get to the point, and you will get there if you stay with it, and when you get there and you look back at your journey, you almost never wish it would have happened any sooner. When you've arrived, you look back and you go, oh, all of that was necessary.
Oh, I
see why it took as long as it took. I had to overcome those challenges, those setbacks. Those were part of me growing and becoming better and becoming who I needed to be to get to the point I'm at now. And it was the perfect time. So be at peace with where you are now in your life, and maintain that healthy sense of urgency every day. You don't have to work out, 12-hour days. Just do one thing that moves you in the direction of your biggest goals and dreams, and your success will move from possible to probable to where you ultimately want it, which is inevitable.
And Hal, we do have one last question for you. Our show is called Nobody Told Me.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
And we always ask our guests, what is your Nobody Told Me lesson? So what is it that you wish someone had told you about miracles or living or gratitude, or you can take it wherever you want, that you wish that they had?
Yeah, I wish someone had told me, and they have told me, I just didn't hear it. I wish I had heard it. And that was the importance of celebrating life, pausing, taking time every day. And this is literally, I don't mean celebrating life in a philosophical sense. I mean literally taking time at the end of the day to reflect and to celebrate what happened that day, whether it was right. And the quality of our life really we can amplify it immediately by looking at, because every day there's a bunch of things that go wrong, countless things that go right.
Right.
And we tend to focus on what's going wrong, and we go to bed stressed and we wake up stressed. And now I do I call my miracle evening, and we don't have time to go into, I won't give you all the details of it, but I've only done it for like 3 months. Like I literally figured this out 3 months ago. And so I wish someone would have told me, or I wish I would have got that at the end of the day, look back over your day. And if you only need one moment. If you played with your kids, if you hugged your kids, if you overcame a challenge, if you were happy when you could have been sad, whatever it is for you, look at that moment and go deep into that moment and try to bring that moment into your heart and into your soul and into every fiber of your being and feel it, and then smile and then fall asleep as you're feeling so great about that moment from that day. That has been the last 3 months. I've been doing that every night, and it's completely changed my quality of life.
Wow, that's good advice. How can people get in touch with you on social media and on the internet?
Yeah, just if you Google Hal Elrod, you'll find me on YouTube and everywhere, Facebook, all those. But Facebook's where I engage most. In fact, we have a Facebook group called the Miracle Morning Community with 200,000+ people from 70 countries. It's one of the most engaged, positive online communities I've ever seen in the world. Go join that. Then you'll not only hear from me, I check in there every day, but there's people that are just supporting each other in really magical ways. And then the new book, The Miracle Equation, you can find me there, of course, and that's wherever books are sold, Amazon, Audible, Barnes & Noble, anywhere you can get the book.
Well, thank you so much, Hal. We can't thank you enough for all of your amazing wisdom and advice. And we were really looking forward to having you on. And we've been big fans for years. And we were certainly not disappointed.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on, both of you. And everyone listening, thank you for your time. And I hope you got some wisdom today and that you can apply to your life.
Oh, definitely did. Our thanks to Hal Elrod. Again, his latest book is called The Miracle Equation, The 2 Decisions That Move Your Biggest Goals from Possible to Probable to Inevitable. And again, his website is halelrod.com. I'm Jan Black.
And I'm Laura Owens.
You're listening to Nobody Told Me. Thank you so much for joining us.